Hello, everyone. Welcome to this very special interview on Newswave, Trinity University student news broadcast on campus station Tiger TV. My name is Danny Nguyen, class of 2024, and here with me is the current San Antonio mayor and Trinity alum, class of 1999, Mayor Ron Nirenberg. Mr. Mayor, thank you for being here.
Great to be with you, Danny.
Mr. Mayor, so my first question to you is, how's the city right now in terms of its progress combating COVID-19?
The city's doing well overall. Obviously, any life lost in this is tragic and unnecessary. And we've mourned over 1,000 of our loved ones since this began. We've had some challenges, clearly, the entire state of Texas, obviously with things opening up, in my view, and many others, too fast, too quickly, and too soon. We've had our challenges, and we saw a very deadly July and August as a result. But we have been in San Antonio consistently putting our public health professionals out front, making sure their guidance was clear and consistent and available to the public, and our communities responded. So we're back in control of this virus. We're not where we want to be yet, but we're getting there, and that will only allow us to see, some life return to normal.
Not just on the health level, but on the financial level. Like, as you know, Mr. Mayor, like the United States, many countries around the world are actually entering a financial recession right now. So I know you guys have been, there's the Prop B that's coming up for voting this November. So how has COVID-19 affected the city financially on the local level?
Well, it's been devastating. And, it's hard to overstate the impacts to the economy that we've seen across the country, globally as well, but certainly across the country, simply because COVID has revealed what many people have known for a while, which is that we have extreme vulnerabilities in our economy, particularly among disadvantaged, lower income residents, communities of color. We've seen them most impacted by the economy. The broader toll economically has been very difficult here in San Antonio because a lot of the industries that are part of the bedrock of this community for a long time have been very hard hit, particular visitor and hospitality industries. So we've seen severe economic impacts. I will say that San Antonio, though, has shown itself able to collaborate, to exemplify teamwork through crisis. And we've been able to do that from the very start of this pandemic. So we're in position to recover economically, but also do that in a way that brings us back stronger and more resilient than before. And that's where our focus is. But it's hard to overstate the impacts of the economy, the economic crisis, but we will get through it.
With COVID-19 not over yet, and schools actually beginning to transition back, not just public schools, but also colleges and universities, specifically in San Antonio, what is the city and Metro Health closely monitoring and doing to prevent another wave of cases? And how's the outlook so far?
Yeah, you may know that we have a public health authority here. San Antonio, the city of San Antonio has a public health authority. Dr. Junda Wu has done an amazing job, has issued guidance that we've put out for a while now with regard to school opening. Unfortunately, we have a governor and attorney general who have ceded that authority away from local public health professionals. And so our public health directives related to schools opening are guidance. It's not mandatory. But still, we see a lot of the school districts are complying with our public health guidance still, which is good. And what that shows is that we're not ready yet to open up at full occupancy 100% because we are closely monitoring a few metrics. The one that we haven't quite reached yet is that we want to get to an overall 5% or below positivity rate in the community. Right now, we're hovering around 6%. We had been in July and August around 25%, so we brought that down quite a bit, but we're not quite at the level yet that we want to go back to full occupancy. The other measures that we are tracking that we've done much better on and have met the standard of success for, at least currently, are the 14-day sustained decline of cases. We are there. We also see our doubling rate, the time it takes to double the number of infections in the community, now up to 3 months, which is far beyond where we would need to reach in order to open up. But we've got to see that positivity rate come down, and then we can start opening up schools to a little bit higher occupancy.
With the election coming up, are you guys adding more protocols or any like safety regulations in regards to voting and polling places?
We are, yeah, and businesses as well. And very early in the pandemic, I appointed with the judge 2 transition teams. One was a health transition team to bring all the best public health professionals together in one room and make sure that they, collaborated and offered us the consensus guidance in terms of what metrics, what does a health ecosystem look like for us to be prepared when things do start to open up. And then I also assembled an economic transition team with business leaders in every sector to examine that health guidance and develop best practices from them. And there's simple things like wearing of face masks, proper sanitation, physical distancing inside facilities, occupancy level, that sort of thing. So our business community has had access to those best practices and have been complying with them. In fact, those that have signed up voluntarily to pledge to maintain those standards are able to display on their business greater safer SA. They've taken the pledge. We encourage that. But we are working with all of the businesses and all of the facilities and even the elections department to ensure that when they do begin operations, that they're doing so with the best practices in mind. Excuse me, that they are monitoring people coming in and out, that they are providing for physical distancing, and that they are also, requiring mask wearing inside, and encouraging their patrons to observe the guidance as well.
And as you know, Mr. Mayor, the flu season is currently underway, and there's a lot of worrying and fears regarding a possible twindemic occurring with both COVID-19 and the flu, creating a lot of potential negative consequences to the city, country, the world. So what do the people of San Antonio really need to continue to do in order to ensure that we return to as much of normalcy as we really want to?
We've really got to do our part with regard to the public health guidance, which amounts to minor inconveniences when you're talking about health and safety and saving lives. The primary one, of course, is wearing face masks. The truth of the matter is this virus transmits in one way. It goes from someone's nose or mouth to another person's nose or mouth. And it goes through the droplets that can become airborne if you sneeze. So the primary way we can ensure we can get back to some normalcy is just to simply wear a face mask when you're out and about, especially, and especially if you're within close quarters with somebody who's not a member of your household. Just wear a fabric covering that can stop those droplets from transmitting somewhere else. The other thing we can do is get a flu shot. As you mentioned, flu season is upon us. We want to make sure it's not exacerbated by COVID and vice versa. We do know that there are health effects that are unknown with regard to COVID-19, long-term health effects, and those may be exacerbated by contracting the flu to the point where it may become deadlier. But even without that, we know that the flu on an annual basis taxes our hospital and medical system. We see a lot of people end up in the hospital just for the regular flu. With COVID happening and taxing our hospital systems at the same time, we don't want to double that effect. So everybody's got to protect themselves from both. Get a flu shot, comply with the best guidance from the public health professionals with regard to COVID.
On a lighter note, I actually want to ask you, throughout this pandemic, what have you actually been most proud of to see in the people in the city of San Antonio?
There's a lot of things, Danny, that I'm proud of San Antonio that I've seen during the pandemic. One is that there's still a sense of optimism. I mean, I think people know we're in a crisis of generational proportions, but that we're going to get through it, and we're going to get through it together. I've been inspired by the amount of teamwork and camaraderie we've seen. We wouldn't have been able to get to where we are without it. There's been a lot of collaboration, which has been awesome. And then, you see the volunteerism and the generosity of our neighbors. We are quick to forget. We've been battling a couple of hurricane evacuations at the same time we've been dealing with COVID. We have firefighters who are battling the blazes out in California right now. Even while we're dealing with a crisis here at home, we are also helping our neighbors in need. That's what it's all about. That's why I'm so proud. It's also why I'm very proud of the work that we've done to get Proposition B on the ballot, which is about getting people back on their feet, neighbors in need, investing in people. And, it is that spirit that we're all in this together, that we are going to help our neighbors in need, that we can now focus on the people in our own community who are in desperate shape, that need that assistance, that need assistance and access to educational attainment in order to break cycles of generational poverty. This is a city that pulls together when it's needed the most, and we're exemplifying that during the crisis.
Yeah, I highly agree. This is pretty much like representative of how like San Antonio is. Like San Antonio is just this whole hodgepodge of like different cultures, different backgrounds, and it really represents kind of the, I guess, familial atmosphere of how San Antonio is. And it's nice to see that even though we're all facing like this current crisis, like through many proportions, like 2020 has been a very difficult year for everyone. It's nice to see that everyone's working together and also trying to succeed together.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
My last question to you, transitioning from that, is what do you want to say to not only the Trinity community, your alma mater, but also the city of San Antonio currently watching?
Something I've been saying from the start of this pandemic, that sometimes gets difficult to remember, which is especially true now that we're in the middle of one of the most divisive political seasons of our lifetimes, and that is the sun also rises. We have been through some very dark times in our community and across our country and even our world over the last many months, perhaps years. But the sun also rises. There are better days ahead. And in my view, that begins with casting a ballot on November 3rd. The top of the ballot, all the way down to the very end, where you can find these propositions to invest in our youngest people and in our displaced workers and our transportation system. This whole ballot from start to finish is enormously important for the future of our city, the future of our economy and our community. And please go cast a ballot, vote, because that will help us get to the other side of what has been a most difficult period of time for our community.
Well said, well said. Well, that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you to Mayor Ron Nirenberg for being here. To the Trinity community and beyond, stay safe and stay healthy. This is Danny Nguyen, Newswave 14 reporting.
Go Tigers. Thanks, Danny.